Please make sure you go over to YouTube, subscribe, or you can always find us on any of the podcast platforms, and that's Fostering Change.
You know, it's hard to believe that this November, the week has already gone by. What an amazing week. You know, I'll never forget when Amerigroup first came to me and said they were actually going to be the first. They were going to be the first in the state of Georgia to make sure that all 400 to 500 kids that enter their state in foster care every single month receive a comfort case. And last week, we kicked it off on November the 1st. And so it couldn't have not worked at a better time to have my friend on our podcast. So without any further ado, Eshontee, welcome to Fostering Change.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so excited to be here with you, Rob.
It's been a while. It's been a while. It's like, we were just reminiscing. It's like, I say this all the time. The foster care arena is very large. I mean, you're looking at, at any given time, we have over 400,000 kids in our system. And the fact that you and I had our paths crossed before, I love that. I absolutely love that. And the fact that you work for Amerigroup, which, to us, that they're family to us. How long have you been with them?
So I've been a part of the Youth Advisory Council for about 2 years now.
Wow. So tell our listeners and our viewers, what actually is the Youth Advisory Council?
Okay, so the Amerigroup Youth Advisory Council is a council full of young people who have lived experience in foster care, where we express, and get the word out about benefits that young people have access to, as well as the value added benefits, because most times when we're in care, everything's being conducted for us and we're being told everything about life, and sometimes we forget to take care of our physical health needs as well as our mental health needs. And so we have created this council to help give a holistic view and to let young people know that you are supported all the way until you're age 26 with your healthcare needs.
Yeah, I love that, because that is one of the things as I travel the country and I meet so many young youth who have aged out of the system, or so many youths that are getting ready to age out of the system. I truly believe that we do a lack of education for our youth in the system when it comes to what they're entitled to. I remind people all the time, kids come into foster care because of choices other people made. And the fact that they go through the system, they go from house to house. We know the statistics show us. We know the fact that it's 16 or 17 before someone even starts to talk about their future. And by that time, as well as I do, from somebody who I grew up in the system and age out, I'm pissed off. I don't want to listen to you. I don't want to know what's going on. And I think where we do a disservice for our children who are coming into foster care is that we don't immediately, I don't care whether they're 10, 11, 7, 14, but immediately start giving them educational pathways of what's available for them when you can completely whole circle them for everything that's needed. Because as you know, I'm 57 years old. And I love my therapist. And so, I wish that when I was younger that, therapy was spoken to me about it, which I think is something that we don't do enough of when it comes to our youth. I just recently had a social worker and I were talking. I was at a conference and a foster parent was there and there were social workers there. And the foster parent said, we really wanted our little girl who came to us at 4 years old in foster care to immediately start therapy. And the social worker said, well, why would you think that she needed therapy at 4? Was she showing any signs? And my first reaction was, what are you talking about? She came into foster care. That right there is a sign. What do you feel that, we don't seem to start these kids off on the right foot?
I feel like in a lot of different ways, so many different things. But I want to also talk about like the fact that when you get older youth and who are transitioning through the system, they treat them as if they're adults, but then kids at the same time. So there's like this understanding, this level of understanding, like, oh, they should know this already. And it's like, hold on. When you were 13, 14, or 10, perhaps, did you know about this stuff? Like, just because you come into foster care does not mean it's the end all be all. Like, all of a sudden you have a ticket to adulthood and you know everything. And so I feel like just the idea of therapy, like being able to pick a therapist. A lot of young people that I've come across and talked with, they don't want to go to traditional therapy because they feel like it doesn't work, or they just threw them with somebody that's just going to be there for a second and they're going to leave. Like, and just giving them that education on what exactly mental health is, how to go through mental health, or how to navigate through your mental health diagnosis, if you have one, because we also know that young people who come in foster care are 2 to 3 times more likely to be diagnosed and misdiagnosed,
Yes.
just to get them to be quiet, to tame them, just so they can be seen and not heard. Like, and so there's so many different elements with that. I actually personally entered into the foster care system by way of mental health, because when I was at home with my mom, I suffered from a misdiagnosis of bipolar disorder. When all of a sudden, when I was just an angry kid who didn't have ways to express anger, or it had been through a certain level of trauma even before touching the system. And so I feel like understanding and expressing what mental health is, removing the stigma from mental health, but also teaching our young people how to take care of themselves all around, from their hygiene to going to making sure that they have a regular annual checkup. A physical is so important, to making sure they know dental needs. Like, I know even at 26 years old, I still struggle to floss. And even though my dentist always tells me, hey, you're supposed to floss because your teeth can erode, gingivitis is a thing, like those just simple, basic, elemental things to take care of one's body.
Right.
I feel as though it's something that's not expressed a lot. And that's where we're here with the Youth Advisory Council to kind of help from peer to peer, because we know peer to peer, they learn way more versus an adult lecturing them, to give that knowledge and spread that knowledge.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. I truly do believe that, telling our story, first of all, strengthens us as a community. It truly strengthens us as a community by telling our story. And I truly believe that we need to stop the stigma that children who are in our foster care system automatically deserve a diagnosis. And that, to me, not every child in the system needs an IEP. Not every child in the system needs letters behind their names. Not every child in the system has mental illness, okay? Right. And I think that we put them in this bucket, and I think a lot of it with the reason that they're put in the bucket, and people, by the way, I know I'm going to get the hate emails, I get them all the time, but you know what? The more letters that are behind a child's name in foster care, the more money is paid out.
Yep.
The more money is paid out. And the sad part is it's not paid out to the child. It's not benefiting the child. But the more letters they continue to stick. And by the way, you talk about angry kids, they have every right to be angry. They have every right to be able to show their emotions, work through their emotions. Now, I'm telling you, it needs to be healthy. We need to show them how to healthy, not be a cutter, not to be violent, but they're allowed to have emotions. And I think so many times, when I see kids moving throughout the system, and again, we have amazing foster parents in this country. Don't get me wrong, we have amazing foster parents, but we also have a lot of foster parents who feel like they're coming in and they're saving the child, and I feel like that's such the wrong way to approach a child who's coming into the system. The first thing that we should do is let that child have their emotions. Let that child tell their story when they're ready to tell that story, when they're ready to tell that story. So many times I'm seeing, I'm reading more and more to where, our youth who are aging out, literally are, handed again a trash bag, and it's something that Amerigroup is trying to make sure it doesn't happen. And I know, as you and I were talking earlier before we started recording, my husband and I, we actually did an older adoption, which is very rare. I've been trying to find people like, hey, has anybody ever adopted an 18-year-old out of the system? And it's very far and in between. But we chose, to adopt our son Alex, which let me tell you something. I say it all the time. I have one regret, and that's that I didn't get to walk him to kindergarten. But now I get to walk with him for the rest of his life. He's a typical son. He's, it's like all kids, they're like highs and lows, but he's now 22 years old. And what would you say to someone who was thinking of maybe doing having an older child from foster care come and live with them?
I would say take it one step at a time. It's a journey. We all walk together, and we all need a sense of community and a sense of belonging. And so when it comes to having older youth, I also would urge you to think back to when you were a teenager. Sometimes it's like, oh, this kid is acting wild, but think about when you jumped out the window and you snuck out to go hang out with your friends. Like, think about all those times you did those outlandish things, or you were dropped off at the movies and then you ended up at a friend's house, and now your parent is like, you were dropped off here. Why are you over there? Like,
Right.
think about those different things, because young people are allowed to have those experiences too. And once again, it's such a thing in the system where we treat our young people like they're adults and they're still kids. Their brains aren't even fully developed. So for someone who's considering getting an older youth, I also urge you to get some training on adolescent brain development, because the way that a young person thinks before their brain is fully processed, their thoughts aren't complete. They don't know everything, and even in our older age, we don't know everything. And so, like, really take the time out to try to understand the teenager and try to find a way of connecting. It's not too foreign to connect with a young person. Be yourself, and they will love you for every bit of that.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say to anyone that's considering getting an older youth. We're just looking for somebody that's authentic and somebody that's real. Yeah. And if you're not, we can smell it. We smell fear.
I know. I'm going to tell you something. I believe it. I believe it. I truly do. And I think, I tell people all the time, not everybody's up for fostering. I will tell you that. Not everybody's up for adoption, but every single one of us can mentor. Every single one of us can sit down and listen to the voice of a youth, because, one of the things you talk about is the power of the youth, the voice of a youth. And I think that is something that we've done for too many years, is we have muted our youth that are in foster care. And I think that we are getting through this. I don't know if it's this river that's rushing down, but I'm seeing more and more strong humans that are stepping up, and they're saying, we've had enough. We've had enough. I say this quite often, it's like that in the springtime, I always see this post, and it's on social media, and it talks about how, if you're cleaning out your basement and you have some old luggage, go take that luggage to somebody, into a child welfare service. And I always tell people, we don't want your stinky, old, smelly luggage, okay? We are not second-class citizens, okay? We deserve to be heard. We deserve to have what everybody else gets. We deserve to have new. We deserve to have every opportunity, that my 5 babies are getting. And that is the thing to me, is that I think for too many years, we have treated kids in our system as our disposable kids, our disposable kids. And I see a change happening. What do you think about that?
I completely agree with you. Like, oftentimes I tell people, a young person comes into foster care by circumstances. Not every kid comes in for the same, and that we're everybody's kids. What happened to take care of the village? Like, there's a village that surrounds a kid. It takes a village to raise a child. Like, what happened to that? Like, when young people enter in the system, our taxpayers' dollars pay for that. So they're still totally our children, and we're still obligated to take care of them as such. And you wouldn't give your child the smelly suitcase you had in your closet for 20 years. You would want to give them their best. So show up that way and give young people who experience care, because the thing is, they're not in care, they're experiencing care.
Thank you.
It's a part of the story, not the entire story. Give them a chance and give them the things that you would give your own children, the ones that you birthed out of you. Because once again, we're still a village. We're to take care of ours.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. That is the whole reason I say all the time, change your vocabulary. These are not foster children. These are children who are experiencing foster care at this point in their life. And it doesn't define who they are. And too many times when we say the F word in front of a child's name, the very first thought that we have as humans is, what did that kid do wrong?
Yep.
What did that kid do wrong? Instead of thinking about what we should be thinking about is, what did that child experience? And what can we do to make the experience better for tomorrow? Eshontee, I have to tell you, what a great conversation. I love seeing you. I love the fact of us catching up. I'm so, so proud of you. The fact is that taking your voice, going and helping other kids know that they have a voice, really listening to our younger generation. I say this to people, when you invest in a child, the olden days, people would say, oh, invest in a child and you invest in their future. That is a lie. When you invest in a child, you invest in my future, because you all are our leaders of tomorrow. are leaders of tomorrow. So why would we not want to invest in our youth who are in the system? Because as you said, these kids don't belong to you. They don't belong to me. They belong to us. And as a village, we can make it a lot stronger. Eshontee, once again, thank you so much. Everybody, it's Amerigroup Youth Advisory. I will tell you, go to their website, look at what they're doing. I said it, can't adopt, can't foster, but I'm telling you something, what you can do, step up and mentor. And when I'm saying about mentoring, I'm talking about give that listening ear. Eshontee, thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. It's hard to believe that, we're taking over Georgia. I've been in the state of Georgia for the last week and getting ready to head back for another week and a half in Georgia. So thank you for all that you do, and I hope you have an amazing day. And for everybody else, this is another amazing edition of Fostering Change. I tell you each and every time, I'm the luckiest guy in the world because I get to speak to amazing humans like my friend here. So I hope you all have a great day. And by the way, go and mentor. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to Fostering Change. You can actually watch a couple of episodes right here.